Here's the third question we'll look at. Before we do a full division problem, I just want to look at a fraction with a radical on the bottom and talk about what it means to rationalize the denominator. Okay, we want to rationalize the denominator. We want to make that denominator, that means the bottom of the fraction, rational. Okay, that's what it means. So how do we go from root 2, an imperfect square, not a rational number, to a rational number? Well, we spent time working with rational numbers last week, and we saw that when you multiply a perfect square by itself, a root of an imperfect square by itself, you end up with that number you had inside. Okay, so if we multiply root 2 by itself, we're going to get 2. Why? Because root 2 times root 2 is actually root 2 squared. Okay, the root of 2 squared is 2. This is root 4, which is 2, and it works every single time. Every time you square root a perfect square, you get that base of the perfect square, which is the 2 in this case. So we multiply by root 2, and we don't want to mess up the fraction. We can't just multiply the bottom of the fraction by something unless we do it to the top as well. We do it to the top as well, it's good because root 2 divided by root 2 is 1. And if you multiply anything by 1, you still have the same number you started with. So we didn't mess up the value of the fraction. We're just expressing it in a way that looks different because we want it to have a rational denominator. So if we multiply across now, 16 multiplied by root 2 is 16 root 2. We don't multiply 16 times 2 because the 16 is out of the radical, the 2 is in the radical, they don't mix. Okay, so we just keep it 16 root 2. Then when we multiply root 2 times root 2, I just showed you right here that we end up with the whole number 2. Now that that 2 is out of the radical, we could simplify it with the 16 on top because now they're both whole numbers outside of a radical. So we could simplify this and say that 16 divided by 2 is 8. So we actually have 8 root 2 as our final answer. Did not mean to do that. I was just trying to show you 18 root 2 is our final answer after we rationalized that denominator.